Okay, go ahead.
Alright, so this is just kind of snare basics. One thing about the snare, if you notice off the bat, is it has a really kind of uncontrollable ring about it. So what I'll be sending with you are these things. They're called moon gels. So they just look like some kind of jelly type of thing, but basically the idea is this is going to dampen the sound of the snare so it sounds a little bit more pleasant to the ears as opposed to that kind of ringy noise. And the ringy noise is basically accustomed to the fact that the snare is made entirely out of like steel. If it was like a wood snare, it would just be like a crack. So you're kind of hearing the sound bounce off the side of the metal drum, which is why it's going to make that sound. So we'll put one of these down, put it out of the way too, because obviously, you know, if you're going to play your drum like this, you don't want to put it in the middle. Put it somewhere where you're not going to touch it, because if your snare sticks on it, it's not going to play too well. So sounds much better now, right? Then if you need to, if that's a little too much muffling, you can just kind of put only a little bit on, or you can actually cut these in half, which I usually do sometimes if I just am being a little picky about how much muffling I want to do. There we go. See, having a little bit of ring is okay. That's fine. That's pretty much it.
Okay, do a kind of a little beat with this drum.
A little beat?
Well, you know, a little like a song or something. Well, basically, one thing to remember with snare is like its own type of drum in itself. I mean, the fact that in marching band you can have just a snare player because the snare has so much personality. So a thing called rudiments is a very important part about being a drummer, and that's simply doing different patterns on just your snare drum as opposed to using the whole drum kit. So, you know, when you have time, it's always a good idea to practice only doing little kind of sporadic patterns on the snare, but once again, keeping that groove, that rhythm. The one I showed last time is the double stroke roll. That's, you know, just 2 hits on each hand, you know. And then, of course, you know, as you get better, you know. You get the single stroke roll, just 1 hit. And then of course you get faster at that. But that's just kind of for fun. But other rudiment, I mean, just like when you think of rudiments, I mean, you probably won't learn that now, but stuff like patterns and stuff like that. And also different ways to hit the snare. You hit it right in the middle. It's kind of your standard snare hit. What I like to do when I hit, I actually hit with along the stick, kind of hitting the side in the middle. It's called a rim shot. It's going to give more of a fatter sound as opposed to. And then another thing too is also, you know, when you want to do parts, more jazzy stuff and hip hop stuff, you're gonna, instead of hitting the direct snare, you're gonna hit the rim shot, the rim of the snare too. So it's a different kind of rim shot. And that's the snare. And then also there's a switch over here. You want to do this? This switch. This is what turns the snare on and off. So if I turn it off, it's gonna have kind of a Latin drum, kind of Caribbean drum sound. And the reason for that, I'll show you. Is this. This is kind of what makes the snare work. You got these things in the back. These are what you call snares. I mean, that's where the name comes from. So once you turn it on and makes it tight, that's actually what's making the sound. It's these little things bouncing off the back of the drum. So the snares, turn it off, turn totally different sound. So more for that.
All right, let's stop for a minute.
Okay. This is actually good.